Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being so kind to be spending this time with me. We are going to have a grandiose show for you today. I mean, it's kind of packed. I just got through putting and cutting all those videos together that I really want to get to you. It is one of those days where there is so much information out there. You're sitting down and you're asking yourself, my God, what is best to show to my folks? What's best to show to my peeps? What's best to be out there and letting you know what's going on? Because, man, it is a crazy day. I know everybody already has heard that over 3 million people have applied for unemployment. And you know what, folks? Hello, Rose Williams. Welcome aboard. Let me tell you. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. What's this about ACA expansion? I'm going to put that into context with respect to red states later on, Senor ACA. Look, let me tell you something, folks. This is just amazing. As it turns out, you saw the unemployment numbers today, 3 million people. But what I want to make you guys cognizant of, right? That 3 million people that you're seeing there, don't let that number fool you. It is a lot worse than any 3 million that you see there. And why is the case? And by the way, for those of you that are just joining, I ask you so kindly to please share. Why do we need this? Because there's a lot of info that we talk here. There's a lot of context that we give info here that isn't given on the mainstream media, and they can't. They really can't do that. Welcome aboard, Bruce Pollard. Thank you so kindly for sharing, folks. They can't do all of this. I mean, I feel Ali Velshi today surprised me. I mean, make sure to watch Ali Velshi on MSNBC as much as you can. Make sure to get that guy's numbers going through the roof. And the reason why is Ali Velshi has the pelotas to talk, to speak the words that needs to be spoken. He speaks the words that needs to be spoken in a place where we are trying to censor. You see, right now our economic system is about to collapse. And I don't mean this to scare people, and I don't mean this as a bad thing, because I think if we can finally get there in the right context, it is a great thing, because as it turns out right now, the slow collapse has been killing Americans over the years. It has been stressing Americans through the roof over the years. You know, a lot of us who live in, let's say, the suburbs in Houston or the suburbs elsewhere, we don't see where the massive amount of Americans are. Remember when my daughter went to Ohio and Appalachia, and she saw how people could live, masses of people, the conditions that they could live in, things that you don't see on TV because nobody wants you to know. Nobody wants you to know these things. Nobody wants you to know the number of Americans that are in dire straits. Why is Donald Trump getting support? Why are all these things happening? 469, I'll come to you in a little bit. Well, let's see. Why is it happening? Why is it happening? But you know what? Since I just got started and I haven't really gotten into the show yet, 469, if you want to speak real quickly, hit the number 1 so I can get you on air right away, and then I'll go ahead and continue with the program. So if you want to speak and just not listening, hit the number 1 if you want to talk. That way I will know that you want to talk. Otherwise, I'll just leave you there on hold until you hit the number 1. Anyhow, folks, very important, as I state here, we are in dire straits. The economy is on the brink of collapse, but I'm not going to go there yet. Before I get there, there's something that got to me on and why our friends on the right or in the condition that they're in or of the mentality that they're in, etc., etc., etc. And before I get with the gist of the program, I want to play this by Dinesh D'Souza because this is the kind of infection that we're talking about. Check this out. Dinesh D'Souza decided to do something very dangerous with the coronavirus. He's now making or talking about the coronavirus as if it's a blue state thing. Look at the blue states. They're the ones with a whole lot of infections. Let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Also remember that a few weeks ago, Jennifer Rubin, the Never Trumper, and others were all putting out the idea that there was so much misinformation being put out by the president and by Fox News that we would see spreads of the coronavirus in the red states. Republicans would die. But in fact, interestingly, these spreads are mainly in the blue states. And what I find kind of interesting is you have these blue state governors and mayors, and they're criticizing Trump, but they also have the outstretched hand. They want Trump to intervene. The same guy that they've been calling a racist and a fascist for 4 years, and now they want the racist and the fascist to step in and help them out. You'd think that if a racist and fascist was the guy they needed, they'd prefer to go it alone.
Now let's be clear. The reason in the blue states, those particular states, Washington, New York, and California, we have a lot of spread is because, of course, these are international states. These are states with a lot of people, and for all practical purpose, in the case of New York, why they're so much ahead of everybody, it's a very dense city. In other words, a lot of people live together. With regards to the other issue, they have their hands out to Trump. That is ridiculous. First of all, those three states pay much more money into the federal government than they take out, unlike most of the red states who are welfare states. Let's actually get clear here, because this is a serious matter. The reality is Louisiana is going to be in dire straits pretty soon, and all those governors of states that did not implement these procedures to really start isolating early, they are going to pay the price going forward as infection rates in those particular states start to escalate. But you know what? Given that their healthcare system is so bad already, many of the coronavirus deaths are probably simply going to be classified as dying from pneumonia, not specifically coronavirus. Let's get folks like Dinesh D'Souza off of the TV stations where all they do is pollute the air with misinformation, which in this case can have negative consequences not only on individuals, but the entire country. Anyhow, folks, as it turns out, topic of the show, 469, I still see you listening, but I don't see that you pushed the number 1, so I'm going to assume that you're just calling in to listen. Whenever you want to speak, hit the number 1. Okay, title of the show today, Killing Citizens Denying ACA Expansion and COVID-19 Action. That's the first part of the show. Then we also talk about stimulus dereliction. All right, stimulus dereliction. Now, here's the interesting thing. Many red states are falling prey to right-wing think, and just as they killed many of their citizens with ACA expansion denial, it will with COVID-19 irresponsibility. Is the stimulus all that it should be? Folks, we are currently in disaster capitalism mode, a pandemic exacerbated by a flawed economic system, and said systems attempt to stay alive by forcing government policies to support it at the expense of the masses. That is why red state governors and the right wing are vocal with their back to work to closure or no closure announcements and so much more. If you guys remembered last couple of days, we were playing playing video with Glenn Beck saying, I will give my life up for my kids to make sure we don't destroy the American economy. And then we had the governor of this lieutenant governor of Texas going and say, oh, yes, we need to save the economy. That is the most important thing right now. Save the economy. A friend of mine yesterday sent, and I wish I had got it out, that it said we are coming for you to save the economy at all costs. I mean, the interesting thing that we saw, is that the plutocrats are really panicking as far as what this economy is turning out to. I was listening to Crystal Ball a few days ago, and Crystal Ball said, what we need to do is we need to put capitalism on suspension for now and get our economy going, and then, leave it on suspension, which is really true. Look, this pandemic is being exacerbated by the controls that capitalism have on our system. The super efficiency that they talk about capitalism. We want a very efficient system, and because we want a very efficient system, we don't overproduce anything, even as if we may need it because of a pandemic. We don't do any of those things because remember, all those people that are extracting out of capitalism are taking it out of that corporate person. Remember, corporations are people. So the corporations make a lot of money. The executives and the shareholders extract the money out of the corporations that they took out of everybody else. And they did it efficiently in such a manner that there's no fat, very little fat. You know, we don't overproduce in the United States. We don't build in the United States because we can do it cheaper overseas. What these things never prepare for are pandemics, or they don't prepare for things that happen to humanity. But guess what? Those guys who got their wealth, those guys who got their money, they hold on to it. They extracted it out of the corporations, right? They already took it. So they are left with it. You're not, though. You are left holding the bag. And when I say you are left holding the bag, I also mean you are left holding the trash bag. Here we are in a pandemic, and this is we always claim we are the best in the world. We have the best medical system, the best of every system, but this is what we are living with today. Check this out.
Just like Dr. Brennan, I've been talking to some of the doctors that I was dealing with over the last couple of weeks, and it is an absolute abomination that these medical professionals do not have the supplies that they need. And I think everyone needs to understand there is only one aspect of our government that can require and fulfill those supply needs, and that's the federal government. The states do not have the ability to force companies to make these supplies. Only the federal government. And it is bewildering to me that we in the United States of America are in a situation where, as Dr. Brennan is describing, that the medical professionals to fight the biggest pandemic in a century do not have the supplies they need. In China, they were wearing 2 gowns. Here, they're wearing trash bags. It's really remarkable that this is what the United States is how the United States is dealing with this pandemic.
I want you guys to understand that we are supposedly the best country in the world. We are exceptional. We are all these things, right? That is the brainwashing that they give to you. Well, those on the left, for the most part, when I say those on the left, I mean the progressive left. I'm not talking about the neoliberals that hold both rails. The neoliberals hold the left rail and the right rail. In other words, they're called Republicans and Democrats, right? The 2 different rails, the Democrats make sure that the left stays in check, and the Republicans make sure that the right wing stays in check. Unfortunately, for the Republican side, the Tea Party did a wonderful job in derailing them and putting us into this situation. They've removed balance from the system. They've removed the balance that kept the demise of the economic system on a slow pace, and they've accelerated it. If you notice, because of them, every time these guys get into control, we have a massive rupture. With Senor Bush, Bush numero dos, we have the 2008 collapse, the crash. They allowed so much crap to occur in our economy. We got the real collapse of the economy under Bush number 2. And then, of course, we got Trump, who nobody expected to get elected, but because he got elected in a sort of different kind of way, they've even figured they could get some larger pelotas. And in getting those larger pelotas, the destruction is even worse. A lot of people are going to say, well, look, something special happened under Trump. The economy was going fine. The economy was going great. It was marvelous. But then we got corona and that caused it. Let me put that in some perspective. If we got corona that caused the problem, yes, we should have had a downturn, but we should not have had a collapse. A system should be designed better than that. But let you listen to El Señor Powell, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The markets didn't seem to react to comments that Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell made about the economy during a rare live interview on NBC's Today Show.
We may well be in a recession, but again, I would point to the difference between this and a normal recession. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with our economy. Quite the contrary. The economy performed very well right through February. We've got 50-year low in unemployment for the last couple of years. So we start in a very strong position. This isn't something that's wrong with the economy. This is a situation where people are being asked to step back from economic activity, close their businesses, stay home from work.
There's nothing fundamentally wrong with our economy, is what he just said. These are the moments in which credibility starts to be lost. Economic activity in the United States has practically ground to a halt. Many non-essential businesses are closed. Millions of people have been laid off. People are not spending money. This is an economy which is driven by the spending of money by people. That is the heartbeat of the American economy. But just so you know, this is not the first time we've heard of that kind of language from a Fed chairman during a crisis. So, when the rest of us know something's wrong and the Fed says things like this is where it becomes a problem. Back in 2008, Fed Chair Ben Bernanke, along with President George W. Bush and then Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, said on an almost daily basis the same thing, that the economy is fundamentally resilient and structurally sound. And then the financial crisis hit, in which millions of people lost their jobs. Those who still worked spent less. The economy suffered dramatically as a result. It took years to undo the damage. So when the chairman of the Federal Reserve says it's fundamentally okay, he's just wrong.
He is just wrong, and there's no two ways about it. Look, I wish my folks on the right, and I'm not talking about the right-wing intelligentsia or these guys, I just wish they understood more than the type of economic messaging coming from the Powell Manifesto. Because what they eventually and ultimately will see in the long run as this crash continues is that all the capitalists are going to be running to make sure and protect themselves, and in the process, they do not care who they're going to hurt, meaning both the poor on the right and the left, both the middle class on the right, on the left. One of these days, even my conservative brothers and sisters that are constant in this show will learn the truth and will accept the truth and will understand that they're nothing but pawns in the system as far as fundamentally nothing wrong with this economy. The fact of the matter is, if you have the disparity that we to have, there's something fundamentally wrong with the economy. The fact of the matter is, if you have people living paycheck to paycheck, if you have half of your population that a $400 bill is going to be something that puts them in dire straits, something is wrong with your economy. But worse are the parts of the economy that's insulated from most, the parts of the economy that's insulated from you, the parts of the economy that you cannot see, because you don't know about those processes that happen behind the scene that the titans of commerce are driving. Folks, if you're just joining us, I ask you so kindly, please share these programs, because the only way we are going to get our information out, the only way we are going to ensure that Americans get educated on what's going on in our economy is if we start to have the alternate media supported, and not only supported, but putting the darn data out. That is how we are going to make a difference. So, as it turns out, yes, we are heading to interesting places. And what I want to do real quickly before I go to the other video is point out something that was done in, you know our hospitals are going through a whole lot of dire straits right now. We have the governor of governor of Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi, and other places, what they've done, or I think it was Jackson, I don't quite remember, but and Tupelo, Mississippi, what they did is they went ahead and they said, okay, we are going to, since the governor didn't do it, our respective towns, cities, etc., we're going to put in shutdown orders. We're going to shut this stuff down to prevent all this virus spread that's been occurring. We've seen that in New Rochelle, New York, that having people quarantine, having people stay away from each other is in effect effective. It is effective in mitigating the virus spread. Of course, the Pacific governor says, "Oh well, we are not China." Not only did he say that, what he did to mitigate, it's funny. Republicans always talk about local control, local control. They want state control and they want local control. In Texas here, when local control said we don't want fracking in our backyard because it is polluting our air, killing our kids, all that good stuff, the state government said, "Oh no, you can't do that. You can't pass it. It's only local control when it doesn't affect corporations," right? Anyhow, so the governor says, "Oh no, 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 no." So what he does is he changes the law or passes a law that goes ahead and makes almost all businesses essential. So therefore, when a mayor says all essential business closed because the state has this particular business as essential, now you can't close it. So in effect, Mississippi is affecting the deaths of many of its citizens. Same thing in Tennessee, another red state. The doctors are begging. The doctors are begging these guys, please, please, please shut us down. Please go ahead and close these things. You are putting stresses on the healthcare system that we cannot support. What do they say? Sorry, he's not doing it. So we have Tennessee. We have the same thing with the governor in Florida, which is going to go through a pandemic pretty darn soon as all the pollution from those kids that came from all over went on the beach and it was a morass of viruses. As soon as that gets put out there, all these people are, it's going to start spreading like like a hot flame in Florida. Of course, we see what Mardi Gras did in Louisiana. Louisiana is now the place with the highest number per capita of new infections. Higher than Italy. Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana numero uno. So what we get, which is the topic of the program, is what we get is red states are falling prey to right-wing think. And just as they killed many citizens, remember these are the same states that even as they have the sickest people in their states, even as Texas is the state with the highest number of uninsured people, even as the government is going to would pay 97% of the health care for the million Texans that have no health care. Texas says, nope, let them die. But the problem is there aren't people out there in our country in the mainstream media telling the folks out there, your right-wing governments are killing you. The policies they're first, number one, making you dumb. It is their goal to keep you uninformed. That's why Glenn Beck, that's why you have Glenn Beck. That is why you have all these guys put in plausible information. For those who watched the show yesterday, I actually cut that piece out of the show to do it as a separate. I gave the reason why you see Donald Trump's numbers increasing. It is increasing because we have a well-funded media intent on keeping their pew not very smart. They have a well-funded and those of us on the left who have the data, who have the info, we are struggling to get this information to the masses, specifically to those on the right as well, because we have to work together to get all this stuff done. We have got to work together to get all of this done. So folks, if you're just joining us, I just got a big group that just came in from all over Periscope and what. I tell you what, go ahead please and share whatever platform you're on. Please share this show now. I ask you so kindly, because that is how we are going to make the change. I have some more videos that I need to put out there. Now, I just showed you the one with Powell. Okay? Just showed you the one with Powell. Now, Mnuchin, today, as you know, we had the highest number of people without jobs that filed claims in the history of the United States. In the history of the United States, and we are not talking about just a little bit more. We're talking by a factor of 5 or 4 or something like that. 5 times the amount that has ever looked for it. So, folks, if you're just joining us, share. But check this out, folks. Check this out. Listen to El Señor Mnuchin. Listen to how much he cares about his people. And remember, most of the people that are being without jobs right now are the Trump supporters. The low-end people that don't have a lot of, the skills in the job level. Do you remember what Trump went up and said? Trump went and he said this at one of his rallies. I love stupid people. Not my words. I don't talk like that. Trump's words. He said he loves the stupid voter. Trump said it, not Egberto Willies. Trump said it. Check out Mnuchin now.
I want to ask you, I want to just play quickly what Steve Mnuchin said on CNBC about this. Let's listen together.
To be honest with you, I just think these numbers right now are not relevant, and whether they're bigger or smaller in the short term, obviously there are people who have jobless claims, and again, the good thing about this bill is the president is protecting those people. So, now with these plans, small businesses hopefully will be able to hire back a lot of those people.
So we got a few-week lag on when the checks go out. There's always a delay when unemployment checks themselves go out. The bill has not passed, as Garrett was just saying. Should be passed by tomorrow. That adds money to the unemployment insurance that people get. But all of this is a few weeks away. That sounded unnaturally chipper for the Treasury Secretary to be telling CNBC this morning.
But I think tone deaf to say that these 3 million people who are applying for unemployment insurance are somehow irrelevant. People right now are struggling to pay their rent, to buy groceries. They're trying to figure out how they can telework at home if that's an option, while also trying to find childcare for their kids. There are people going to work right now who don't have paid sick leave. They're trying to figure out, if I get sick, I can't afford to lose any more of my paycheck. And you've got a Treasury Secretary who says this is irrelevant. And so I think that speaks volumes about this administration's approach to dealing with average workers. I think it also speaks more broadly to the economic instability we have in this country, that notwithstanding the low unemployment rates before this, notwithstanding the stock market records, far too many of these people, too many people in our country are living really paycheck to paycheck with inadequate wages, inadequate benefits. And so I think hopefully when we get out of this crisis, we start to address some of these broader issues of inequality.
Absolutely so. I just got a text from a good friend, a supporter of this show, and he just said, he just sent a note. He just said, MAGA. I am like, you're sending me the keyword MAGA? And it says, make America gullible again. And that's where we're at. But you know what? Look, America is not going to stay gullible. You're going to have those ideologues that will continue to fool themselves for a very long time. There are going to be a group of people that there's nothing we can tell them that will change their minds. But we are not concerned about those people. In fact, I like to have dialogue with those people in real time, because it's not about me, it's not about them, it's about everybody. And what happens then is as follows, right? If you get the conversation going and people are able to see how they're gullible, they're naive, or all these different things with these people, 602, if you want to come on air, please go ahead and hit the number 1 so I know you want to speak and you're not just listening. Thank you so kindly. Now, so we have to understand that, right? You find that there are some that are gullible, but that is not who we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach all of those folks that are simply believing what they're hearing from those that they are suddenly they're more in contact with, that they're more, I don't want to say amenable with, but that is what you have to look at, right? I sent out a newsletter today. And on my newsletter today, I'm going to try to find it as I speak. It was sort of an ode to these folks. I put out the clip of the video that I did yesterday talking about why these people are into, why somehow it seems like they're gullible. And this person wrote a note and said, oh, they're just, I forgot what she told me. She just said she couldn't believe these people could be so gullible. She couldn't believe these people could be so, and she used the S word on them. And I'm like, no. And this is, I want to read what I wrote to them. I said, Trump poll numbers are up. This is not an accident. The steadiness of his numbers is a well-orchestrated dance. It will do well for progressives and Democrats to learn the beat and the moves. Right after those numbers came out, I got a call from a friend who was ready to throw in the towel. I do my part, she said. I work hard as hell talking to people. We are telling these people the facts. What is wrong with America? Here's the reality. There is nothing wrong with America. As difficult as it is to say, it is our fault. Progressives, Democrats. Rank and file Democrats and progressives generally believe facts are enough. They are not. Trust is. If I have your trust, I can turn lies into facts. I could go into several narratives, some personal. Why, in as much as progressive policies are definitely what Americans say they want, the actions of many in our leadership either wrongly or rightly have been deleterious to our trustworthiness to many progressives and reachable conservatives. I mean, that is actually how you got the Reagan Democrats. That is actually how you got the few Democrats that voted for Trump. That is how you got the Democrats that stayed home. I could go into, or rather, most importantly, however, the smaller right-wing voice or leverage much more than progressive voices. There are a lot less conservatives out there. There are a lot less right-wingers out there. But they have a voice. They have corporate support and devoted support from their ideologues. For those who remember Citizen United versus FEC, the result of having more money is in effect having the wherewithal for more speech for the moneyed. While there are many rich Democrats as well, they purposely stay on the sidelines for policies that they believe are too liberal for their bottom line. You see, the wealthy are in both parties, but many are of none. Check out the video above, and that's a video that I did about those, about how the right wing is able to convince a lot of folks, including some that are our compatriots right here, to do the wrong thing. It is so important. It is so important that we understand that dynamic, because unless we understand that dynamic, we won't get the picture. Now, let's see. Go ahead and 602, the caller calling from 602. I don't see the flag up that says you want to speak. If you're listening to me and you want to speak, please be sure to click on the number 1, and I'll be sure then to pick up the phone if you click on the number 1. Otherwise, I'll assume that you are listening. Now, there are countries out there doing a whole lot of good things. Denmark, for one, decided to spend 6% of its GDP, 13% of its GDP to get these people recovered. Okay, again, 602, if you want to speak, hit 1. I just saw somebody come back on and hit the number 1. I'll be more than happy to do it. I don't see the number 1 being hit, so I would assume you don't want to speak. So if for some reason the number 1 isn't working, the flag isn't working for us, you can put a message under the video inside of, where's the video? In facebook.com/politics done right. Go under that, and I'll see the message if you want to speak, if that flag isn't working. All right. Anyway, Denmark decided to spend 13% of its GDP to support its citizens, to make sure that those people who have jobs, those people who are working, they continue to get 90% of their salaries until the economy recovered. So far, our stimulus is about 2% of our GDP. 2% of our GDP. And when I asked these guys, said, and I didn't have enough. I was taping the video, didn't have enough time before the show started to cut the video. I'll cut it and then post it later on. But what the guy was talking to about Ali Velci is the way the Danish believe is investing in people. They look at investing in people as an investment. They said it'll cost us so much more